started writing limericks, and so it's really always wonderful to have that. She's our queen of limericks. So going on to more royalty, very honored to present Evelyn Benson, significant other of Poet Laureate Emeritus Don Benson. Her first book was a bestseller, New Westminster, Ancestry in a Small Town, One Family's Stories. She's been gathering oral history most of her life, and her remarkable memory allows her to retell stories told to her in her childhood years by her grandparents, parents, and other friends. Her book won Best Book of 2013 award from the Genealogical Society of British Columbia. She is almost ready to launch Ancestry in a Small Town, More Family Stories, and she'll be on the World Portrait Cafe radio show tomorrow. So please welcome, my voice keeps trying to give out, please welcome Evelyn.
Thank you, Ariadne. Yes, my book, Ancestry in a Small Town, this is the voice of my ancestors and the ancestors of a lot of other people. And I thought I'd have my second book 2, ready for this Christmas, but I got too busy doing other things. So next Christmas I'll have book 2. In book 2, I do a bit of, it's more oral history, true stories that people have told me or I tell about the early days. And having taught school, I find that children today think that the 1960s are the old days. That really makes me feel old. So it kind of opened the door to a few more stories. So in my new book, I take the time, because I'm passionate about it, is I try to talk other people into writing down the stories of their kinfolk, stories they have been told or what they did when they were kids or when they were newlyweds, and to keep them for the next generation. And so what I'm going to do tonight is tell you how Dawn and I found the people who are the voices of our ancestors. It was our search for ancestors. And I want to encourage other people to do the same thing if you haven't already done it. Genealogical research, here's my teacher voice, is like eating peanuts. If you once start, if you eat one, you can't stop. And that's what I hope will happen. My brother gave me some family tree forms, and he had filled out what he knew about the Sangster family and the Appletons, my mother's side. And he only got as far as our great-grandparents. He got their names, but no further. So this got Dawn and I curious, so we decided to tackle all 4 sides of our family. So we decided we'd start by researching the Bensons. Well, Dawn's granddad Benson and Nanny were still alive, so we began by questioning them and filling in family forms with the information that they gave us. But again, we only got as far as Dawn's great-grandparents. We had names, but nothing else. But we did get some place names, clues like Leeds and Ripon in Yorkshire. And Nanny said her family's name was Peel, and they somehow were related to Sir Robert Peel, who was Prime Minister. So we thought, well, okay, we'll give it a start. So we went here to the public library, and we read just about every book there was on how to trace your family tree. And we read quite a few of them. And remember, this was 1970s BC. That means before computers. Okay? And we began the long, painstaking process buying money orders in pounds sterling and mailing it to England with a request for a birth or a death or a marriage certificate for every new ancestor that we had uncovered. And replies took weeks. They were costly, and sometimes they were a dead end. But sometimes these documents contained new clues to follow up on. Now, the how-to guidebooks also recommended that we check on lists of family genealogies already in print. And I'm going to suggest if anybody's using Ancestry.com, don't leave this out of your research. Get into the books because this is what happens. Bingo! We found a book, The Bensons of Paisley Bridge, Ripon and Summerbridge, by Arthur Christopher Benson, who proved to be a distant cousin of Don's grandfather. He was a dean at Oxford, and he was correspondence secretary to Queen Victoria, a noted poet. And he's the one that wrote the lyrics to Land of Hope and Glory. And everybody knows that because at every graduation ceremony you've ever been to. Land of Hope and Glory. Well, that was Arthur Christopher Benson wrote the words. The book was a gold mine of history and family trees of Don's ancestors in Yorkshire, going all the way back to 1348, just from that one book. So keep that in mind if you're doing any research. The point is that sometimes the research has already been done, and it's been done for you, and all you have to do is know where to look for it. Because I had a similar experience. I had this little bit of luck. I found a book in the library's list of books called The Bishops of King County, Nova Scotia. Now, my maternal grandmother was born Bessie Lena Bishop near Kentville, Kings County, Nova Scotia. So I thought, oh boy, maybe this is it. And through an interlibrary loan, I found that the whole Bishop family tree and history, starting with Eleazar Bishop, age 7, who was kidnapped from the Channel Islands in 1704, and then indentured as an indentured slave to a farmer in New London, Connecticut. By the way, he married the farmer's daughter and became very rich. When he grew up, of course. And his descendants, now calling themselves Bishop, not Bishop, emigrated to the abandoned Acadian lands in Nova Scotia, Canada, in 1750, along with many other families from New England. And this mass exodus is recorded in the history books, and they refer to it as the coming of the New England planters to Nova Scotia. I'd never heard of it. My grandmother had never heard of it. But we found it in that book. So once again, somebody else had done all the research for us, and there it was in the book. So don't ever forget about the book lists here at the library, even though you have a super deluxe computer. By this time, through our research books, we discovered that the Mormon Church had extensive genealogical records available to the public. So we spent the next few years doing research at the Kincaid Avenue Church of the Latter-day Saints in Burnaby, painstakingly turning the cranks of microfiche machines, searching through the rolls of film of actual photos of pages of handwritten church ledgers from all parts of Great Britain going back hundreds of years. From the LDS, that's the shortcut for Latter-day Saints, card catalogs, we could order, for a fee of course, parish records from all over Britain. And then a roll of film would arrive from Salt Lake City, and someone would phone us, and we'd drive up to Burnaby, and this was tedious and time-consuming and often very disappointing, and sometimes rewarding. And I can tell you, the ancient handwriting often proved that we couldn't even read it. It was so curly-cued. But again, this time the Latter-day Saints had done the research for us, and then, hallelujah, they put it all in the computer. Now we were able to begin to trace Dawn's Norwegian roots. Dawn's grandmother, Nellie Tingstad, she lived to be 101, and she came from Norway, and she kept saying that she was descended from the kings of Norway. And we said, oh yeah, Granny, sure, that's nice, didn't believe her. So, after she died, we found an old chart going back many generations, but unfortunately the chart only contained names, no dates, no places. But with the help of that chart and the Latter-day Saints research on the computers, on the internet, we traced Dawn's maternal line back to the 10th century in the same fjord in Norway. So Grandma Nell wasn't exaggerating at all. She really was descended from King Haakon II of Norway. Mm-hmm. So, don't poo-poo these old stories you hear. Follow them up, see if they're true. You might be surprised. Now, on my Scottish side of the family, this is one of my favorite tales. We had a tale. I'd grown up with this tale. This is what I was told. One of our ancestors was a famous Scottish smuggler called Lang Tam. He was caught smuggling by a government revenuer, that's a taxman, and struck on the head with a sword. He managed to stagger to his house where his wife, Aunt Niche, hid the booty under the baby's mattress, and Lang Tam died on the porch lying on a dees. We never found out what a dees was. We think it might have come from the French dais, like a couch, maybe. We never did find that out. So that was the tale that we were told. And what happened was, the revenuers burst in to find the booty, and Aunt Niche drove them out with her broom saying, "Hush, or you'll wake the wee bairn." And so through